Dear guests, my name is Dubrina Cishmedjieva. I'm the journalist and I would be the moderator of today's event. The event is organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Bulgaria, the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs of the Republic of Croatia, in cooperation with the representation of the European Commission and Pan-Europa Bulgaria. Due to the COVID measures, this event is in a hybrid mode. A group of young people is here in the hall, but the main audience is online. Now I'd like to invite on stage our main guest, Dubravka Schweitzer, Vice President of the European Commission for Democracy and Demography. It's really great to have you with us today. This is your seat is here. Thank you. All of you could not only watch but also send your question to the Vice President through the online platform Slido. And Vice President Schweitzer will answer your question in the second part of the event. You could easily join the event with the code hashtag COFE. You can see here. The code is not chosen by chance. The event is part of the conference on the future of Europe. Now, I'd like to welcome on stage Mr. Svetlan Stoev, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Bulgaria.
Dear Madam Vice President Schweitzer, dear Mr. Radman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored for the opportunity to address you here today. Let me express my pleasure of realizing this joint discussion in the framework of the visit of my Croatian colleague, Gordan Grlić Radman. I would also like to welcome the Vice President of the European Commission for Democracy and Demography, Dubravka Schweitzer in Sofia. The broad array of major challenges we have been facing, accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, have demonstrated how important the solidarity and contacts between EU member states are. That is why it brings me great pleasure to welcome one of the series of events taking place in Bulgaria under the auspices of the Conference of the Future of Europe, but this time unique in its nature as it enables people-to-people contacts between young Bulgarians and Croatians, partners in the European Union family. Bulgaria will continue to work for organizing similar discussions in the future, as well as to give a voice to people of the European Union to share ideas and help shape our common future. What sort of European Union do we want to see in the future? What is working well in the European Union and what could be improved? These are just two examples of the kind of questions that the Conference on the Future of Europe will have to answer. The conference, first announced by Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in 2019, is now entering its key phase. It is a democratic initiative in which European citizens from all walks of life and corners of the Union could take part in a consultative process in a structural and innovative manner. With the other global challenges facing us, climate change, migration, disinformation, security issues, health pandemic, the European Union's unique model was tested like never before, causing uncertainty among EU citizens. I would like to remind you of Bulgaria's national motto, United, we stand strong. Now, more than ever, Europe needs to be united. This is our only chance to moving forward. That is why the Conference on the Future of Europe is so important. For the first time, the European Parliament, the Council, and the European Commission are sitting together with the European citizens and working for the future we all would like to share. Bulgaria sees the conference as an excellent opportunity for an ambitious exchange of views, especially with a view to overcoming the current pandemic and building a capacity for resilience to future crises. We expect a structured bottom-up debate focused on the most important policies for societies and citizens, which would lead to specific results that would be helpful in outlining the vision for the future development of the Union. It is our long-standing position that we can make the EU stronger and more resilient by focusing more on what brings us together and enhancing cohesion and convergence between EU member states, as well as the cooperation between the EU institutions. We hope that the debate in the conference will give us ideas on how to better achieve this goal. The prosperity of the Union depends on its people, and the young people are actually the backbone of our future. We have the political responsibility to ensure better opportunities for them by creating more jobs, fixing demographic issues, further improving the quality of life in Europe, protecting our borders, and guaranteeing that they have the skills that the digital and green economy requires, as well as equal access to education and health. In this regard, we welcome bringing to the forefront of the EU agenda the topic of demography, especially in view of the ongoing negative demographic trends in Europe. We are concerned about the depopulation of regions with less favorable economic conditions. The negative demographic trends related to the aging population and the declining share of the working population is another one of the major issues that the EU member states are facing. This is particularly relevant in the context of the current crisis caused by the spread of COVID-19 and its economic and social consequences to various public sectors. In this regard, we appreciate the fact that for the first time, the Commission nominated a Vice President for Demography, who is at the same time co-chair of the Executive Board of the Conference on the Future of Europe. This citizens' dialogue is a perfect opportunity to discuss the Commission's views and proposals, to share the experience of Bulgaria and Croatia, but also to hear the voice of the civil society. Finally, we have to be able to better evaluate the effectiveness of our current policies, to consider the best practices in Europe and in the world, and to redefine and make them more beneficial for our economies and citizens. Thank you for your attention and good luck to the conference. Thank you.
Благодаря ви, господин министър. I'm happy to invite on stage Mr. Gordan Grlić Radman, Minister of Foreign and European Affairs of the Republic of Croatia.
Благодаря ви. Министър Стоев, dear Светлан, скъпи приятел Светлан. dear Madam Vice President Schweitzer, dear Dubravka, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, скъпи приятели. Много се радвам да съм днес тук в България, в София, с мой добър приятел, министър Стоев, Светлан. It's my great pleasure to be here today at this event jointly organized by our two ministers in the framework of the Conference of the Future of Europe. I'm especially pleased that together with us we have the Vice President of the Commission, Dubravka Schweitzer. I'd also like to thank the European Commission representation in Bulgaria, here in Sofia, and PAN Europa for their valuable assistance in preparation of this event. Dear participants, dear citizens, Conference on the Future of Europe. It's a unique and unprecedented process in which your role is the key one in shaping the future European Union that you want to live and work in. We want to hear and listen to your voices, ideas, and vision for the next decade and beyond. In Croatia, a government's task force, which I am chairing, has been set up to oversee national activities within the framework of the conference. The members of the task force include a wide range of representatives from government bodies, but also from the national parliament and local and regional authorities, as well as civil society. National activities and events are being held in different parts of Croatia and include a variety of topics that are important to a wide range of citizens and for our common future. Let me just briefly mention that we have organized more than 30 events in Croatia covering different topics like climate, migrations, youth, women, just to name a few. The organizers are state bodies, not only ministries, but also other institutions like universities, cities, student associations, and so on. Only yesterday, in Dubrovnik, we held a panel discussion on the topic EU in the world, setting the stage for tomorrow, the global and regional role of the EU. The event was organized in cooperation with Spain. Last week, we had a conference in Zagreb on demographic challenges and consequences of COVID-19 pandemics. My ministry published tender for financing the projects of the non-governmental actors linked to the conference. We chose 23 projects. Some of them are already being implemented and are added to the digital platform. Dear citizens, dear friends, the topics chosen for this event could not have been more relevant. Demographic challenges, education, brain circulation are something that both our countries, Bulgaria and Croatia, and the Union as a whole, are faced with. Demographic changes are real. They affect our societies, our economy, our finances, our education systems, our way of life. We need to address it, and we need to do it now. According to Eurostat, Europe's population is increasing, but this is primarily due to net migration to Europe. However, the natural change of the EU population has been negative for years, with more deaths than births recorded. Unfortunately, Croatia is also witnessing this trend. At the same time, the population of Europe is aging and fewer children are born. All this calls for alarm in the EU, especially if comparison is made to population in some other parts of the world, which show significant population growth rates. When talking about the future of Europe, it is of utmost importance to talk about the future of its citizens. We are often concerned about how to increase the weight of the European Union in the world. We talk about it in terms of wealth, trade, or security, defense, while it should be more about people and all elements necessary to make citizens' life better: quality of life, families, health, social care. This would then have an impact on turning negative to positive natural change in Europe. We welcome the fact that challenge of demographic vitality is also recognized in the strategic foresight report presented by the Commission last month. Further, proposal on how to slow down or reverse the trends will be of utmost importance, and we are fully ready to engage in this process and mobilize our resources. I'm glad that today we have here with us in person and online experts in this field who can help us to better comprehend and understand the complexity of these issues. As for the Croatian government, we take demographic challenges very seriously. State Secretary Željka Josić is here from the Croatian Central State Office of Demography and Youth, will give you an overview of the situation in Croatia and measures taken in addressing this topic. I'm sure that by comparing our experiences and best practices, we could learn from each other and make use of it. Dear citizens, dear participants, dear friends. Let me stress once again, you are at the heart of this unique project of Conference on the Future of Europe. It is important that we work together so that the outcome of the conference represents the ideas, suggestions and proposals of European citizens, of all of us. We need to shape the future of Europe together. I wish you all a fruitful debate and French perspective, and I am looking forward to hear your ideas, proposals and recommendations. Thank you very much. Благодаря.
Hvala, Minister Radman. You both, Minister Stoev and Minister Radman, touched upon one of the main topics of today's event, demographic changes in Europe. Before I give the floor to the Vice President Schweitzer, I would like to invite you to watch together a short video. Let's see it.
Demographic change is shaping the future of Europe. The aging of the population and low levels of fertility could leave us with a smaller and older population by 2030. The impact of this will be felt across our European society, from cities to the countryside, but in different ways from place to place. This means that information about the population needs to be detailed down to specific local communities. Demographic insights will be crucial for many areas, such as healthcare systems, labour force supply, social welfare and cohesion, access to services and amenities, implementation of the EU recovery plan, and political behaviour and trust in the EU institutions. The European Commission's Joint Research Centre is bringing demographic data to the heart of policymaking with the Atlas of Demography. This online tool provides an extensive body of demographic data. It shows the current and future composition of Europe's population in great geographical detail. So how does it work? The Atlas of Demography is made up of data dashboards, which include interactive charts and thematic maps. For the EU as a whole, for individual countries, or for regional and local areas, users can check and compare the population structure and trends over time. This shows where and when demographic change is happening. You can also explore stories linked to demographic change in specific areas. These show how demography affects many aspects of our everyday life, like the places where we live, our political involvement, and the economy of our region. For example, this story explains whether or not migration and mobility can mitigate the decline in our working age population. The Atlas of Demography is evolving over time. It will be continuously enriched with new data, such as demographic projections, population indicators, and socioeconomic statistics. It will also have new stories on themes ranging from the New Green Deal to the digital transition, access to healthcare, social cohesion, and sustainability.
Mrs. Schweitzer, we have two experts from Bulgaria and Croatia, but before that, tell us how big is the demographic transformation mentioned in this short video. Hello again and welcome in Sofia.
Thank you, Dobrina. Good morning to everybody. First of all, dear Minister Svetlan Stoyev, dear Minister Grlić Radman, dragi Gordane, dear ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here this morning in the beautiful city of Sofia. And it's also a pleasure to see that we have link today between Sofia and Zagreb, and the link is this citizens' dialogue on very important issue, which is demography and democracy. Only one short remark. The difference between this citizens' dialogue and previous citizens' dialogues is that there will be a follow-up and feedback from this event, because this is under the auspices or under the motto of the Conference of the Future of Europe. And we always have feedback, which means that I hope you put this you subscribe to the multilingual digital platform, and then you can follow what will happen with your questions, with your ideas, and with your comments. This is the most important innovation of this exercise in comparison to previous citizens' dialogues. And now back to your question, Dobrina. Demographic transformation mentioned in this video is really significant. We talk now about two key transitions that European Union is currently going through. I refer to the green and digital transition, as all of you know. But there is a third one, and this is demographic transition. And we have to be aware of this. It is so significant that this European Commission is the first one to dedicate, as you said, dear Minister, dedicate a portfolio to demography. I will provide some context for you regarding our work. One common experience we share these days is COVID-19, unfortunately. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic changed the European Union and the whole world in the blink of the eye. It coincided with a period of profound demographic and societal change in Europe. There is no doubt that it will leave a lasting impact. As we are learning to live with the COVID-19 pandemic, hopefully to find a way out of it, we must not lose sight of a remarkable development. Never before have so many Europeans been enjoying such long and healthy lives. The Commission's report on the impact of demographic change of June last year shows us that in the last 50 years, life expectancy at birth has increased by about 10 years for both men and women on average in Europe. This trend indicates that the share and number of older people will continue to increase. Today, 20% of the European Union population is above 65. By 2070, it will be 30%. The European Union is aging. But demographic change, such as an aging population and decreasing working age population, has important consequences for our society and for our economies. We must look at new approaches and ensure that our policies are fit for the purpose. According to the 2021 Aging Report, total population in the Union is expected to shrink by about 5% up to 2070. In addition to the old age dependency ratio is set to increase, Take, for example, the fact that in 2019 there were 2.9 potential workers to one retiree, whereas in 2070 there will be only 1.7 potential workers to one retiree. It is vital that we keep an eye firmly fixed on the future and prepare our societies and economies for managing this scenario. Within the European Commission, we have launched a process that will help identify concrete actions and solutions to support people, regions, and communities to adapt to these changing realities. We want to understand better the main drivers of demographic change and its impact on the Union's working age population, public spending, and ultimately the European Union's position in the world, which is also very important, you mentioned, Minister. In this context, we published a green paper on aging to launch a broad policy debate on aging and how to respond to the challenges and opportunities that aging brings. Aging is the demographic mega trend of our European Union. We must remember that aging is not just for the elderly. For example, in Croatian language and in Bulgarian, when you say aging, it's starenje. It has negative connotation, starenje. But aging, if you look at the root of the word in English, then you start aging from the day you are born. So aging is positive, but it's important. How do we age? Everyone, including young people, is impacted by the prospect of living a longer life nowadays. It is important, therefore, we strengthen solidarity between generations. Aging, as you know, brings both opportunities but also challenges. And because we must balance our policy making for everyone across the entire life cycle, making sure we leave no one behind, we also work on children's rights. In March this year, we published European Union Comprehensive Strategy on the Rights of the Child and created European Child Guarantee to protect children's rights and children in need, especially vulnerable children. The European Commission has also published a long-term vision for rural areas. From our democracy point of view, and because democracy and demography are complementary, it's not the tragedy, but the negative is that the 130 million citizens living in rural areas often feel like they are left behind. If you look to Europe, geographically, 80% of Europe is covered by rural areas, and only 1/3 of European population live in these rural areas. So this is huge potential for Europe to find. This is the reason why we adopted this long-term vision for rural areas, which we hope can work in collaboration with national authorities. Because you know that we are aware that demography is within the competence of member states. So what we are doing, trying from our position, help member states to use cohesion policy, recovery and resilience fund, and all other regional funds to make the life in rural areas better and to make rural areas attractive again. I hope that this fact that they feel left behind is not acceptable, and we have to hear the voices of rural areas in the deliberations within the Conference on the Future of Europe. The vision itself, rural vision, is not just about rural areas. It was conceived in partnership with them. So we have presented the Rural Pact and the Rural Action Plan, which aim to connect Europe's rural areas and make them stronger, resilient, and more prosperous, and, as I said, attractive. The European Commission's Joint Research Center, also known as JRC, is also contributing to a better understanding of demographic trends. The JRC supports Commission services by providing scientific evidence to underpin initiatives. That brings me today to a key point, the Atlas of Demography. The Atlas of Demography, you saw a short video on it. It featured in the video you just saw. This is an innovative tool created by the scientists at Joint Research Center to help us in the Commission to better understand demographic trends. But the tool is not just for us. It is designed for all European Union member states, which of course includes both Bulgaria and Croatia. so you can too benefit from its scientific knowledge. The Atlas is freely accessible, interactive platform for everyone. The Atlas provides quick access to a comprehensive body of demographic data and knowledge at all levels, the local, the regional, and European Union levels. Information is presented to the finest level of geographical detail, very granular, right down to the level of a single municipality. You might have seen this in this video. The tool enables you to observe demographic trends in other member states. You can detect, monitor, and anticipate demographic challenges, including territorial inequalities, education and skill gaps, and socioeconomic vulnerabilities within your own country, within your own region, within your own municipality, within your own community, which means that it's very, very granular. And as you heard and as you have seen, it will be adapted to a concrete situation on the ground. In addition to the data and statistics, the Atlas also contains thematic data stories linking demographic trends to specific policies. The Atlas was launched earlier this year with a set of stories. A new set of thematic stories will be included in the next release, which comes out in December this year, focusing on demographic impact of COVID-19, return migration, depopulation, loneliness, children in migration, and access to services. These issues are of interest to many of you joining us here today. This tool is a genuine repository of demographic intelligence for the European Union. The scientists at the JRC continuously feed it with the new content of emerging trends. For instance, researchers are now looking at the issue of return migration in the Union, which could be a silver lining to the crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic, which means that we draw first lesson from this COVID-19. We know that many countries, especially in Eastern Europe, have been impacted by the outflow of young people due to freedom of movement who moved to Western and Northern Europe in search of study and job opportunities. In Bulgaria and in Croatia, these emigration patterns, together with declining birth rates, have been changing the age structure of the population, causing rapid aging. Between 2015 and 2019, both Bulgaria and Croatia had a decrease of 6% in their working age population, among the largest across European Union member states. But we also see that even though the balance between emigration and immigration remains negative, since 2017, the emigration flows from Croatia and Bulgaria to other countries are reducing, and there has been an increase in returns. This is a trend at the moment. There are some indications that COVID-19 pandemic, as I said, has triggered a wave of reverse migration with people from Eastern and Southern European countries returning home, and that large numbers of European Union workers are leaving the United Kingdom following Brexit. While it's not yet possible to say whether these trends will be permanent, we can draw at least two conclusions. The first is that the combined impact of COVID-19 and Brexit has raised new questions and narratives in the debate around migration. These include the role of migrants as key workers in sectors of economy such as hospitality, agriculture, healthcare. The second is that both COVID-19 and Brexit have brought with them new forms of international mobility, enabled notably by teleworking and a change to reverse to brain drain into a big brain gain in Eastern Europe. And to conclude, dear ministers, dear ladies and gentlemen, the European Commission wants to grasp this opportunity to transform the old pattern of brain drain into a new pattern of brain circulation. Even there is a brand new term, brain boosting, where all European Union regions and countries are able to draw on these skills, knowledge, and innovation that youth mobility brings. This means investing in education and job opportunities for younger generations. It means reducing disparities and stimulating economic convergences across European Union regions. We are currently looking into ways to facilitate the exchange of best practices between different areas which are most affected by brain drain. With the help of Atlas of Demography, our ambition is to identify regions that face the phenomenon of depopulation by looking into differential drivers of population decline, such as low fertility, dropping birth rates, economic downturn, and outward migration. We also look at long-term consequences for economic growth and investment and the maintenance of public infrastructure and services. We look at it in relation to equal opportunities or perceived threats to culture and identity. I want to reiterate once again, demography is the competence of member states. But as you see, the European Commission dedicated one portfolio to this, which means that we see that this is a challenge within European Union, and we want to help in addressing these issues in collaboration with member states. I take this opportunity to invite all of you to get familiar with the Atlas of Demography, because you can see your own village, your own region, to learn how it can serve your needs and thus answer your questions as we seek to address the challenges and opportunities of demographic change. As you said, your motto is together, always stronger together. So this is also my message today. And come to the platform, because it is very important to be present on the multilingual digital platform of the conference if you want to see your idea be in the end in the conclusions of this conference. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Negative process.
Caretaker.
A little break, and we are ready to continue. Let's hear more on the topic. First, you hear about the situation in Croatia by Željka Josić, State Secretary for Demography and Youth of the Republic of Croatia. Welcome.
So, dear ministers, and of course, dear Vice President Schweitzer, all participants, dear citizens. First, thank you, Vice President Schweitzer, for presentation of Demographic Atlas. I was happy when I saw it for the first time, and it is very practical and interesting for anyone who needs demographic data. I'm also grateful for the opportunity to talk about the demographic situation in Croatia. Our new demographic strategy for preventing and reversing Croatian decline is being prepared. First, I show you a short video.
Je to što sada mogu živjeti i studirati u Amsterdamu, a s druge strane živio sam u Vijetnamu godinu dana i volio bih vidjeti da se Europa razvija terapije, mora biti u bliskom kontaktu s ljudima. I pošto je sve zbog COVID pandemije prešlo online, ja nisam mogao niti praksu, niti praktična predavanja odraditi na vrijeme kada je trebalo.
I think the future in Europe is very bright. That's why I moved to Croatia 3 years ago after growing up in the United States. I came in search for a better quality of life. I know I can earn more in the US, but I was very attracted to the culture here and of course the food we eat, the slower pace of life, and relationships that feel much more genuine. It felt like coming home, a place where I want to raise my family. I have a bachelor's degree in dance performance and I perform with Zagreb City Theatre Komedia. In the pandemic, from one day to the next, everything was canceled. I've been dancing my entire life and I felt like a part of me had died. I know I will not be able to dance professionally forever, so this last year and a half, I've been able to reflect on my career. It's been an early wake-up call to discover new ways to impact arts and culture for the next generation.
So after those videos, I can just say the future is in your hands. So here you can see statistics in Croatia, and now in Croatia we have a population census in progress, and we expect there will be less than 4 million Croatian people. The data show that the fertility rate is 1.47 children per woman, and its death rates has exceeded the birth rate since 1991. Of course, natural growth is negative. The projection of the European Commission is that there will be 3.8 million inhabitants in 2030 in the Republic of Croatia. Of course, since Croatia joined the European Union in 2013, the immigration has increased, especially of young people and young families. That in the last 7 to 8 years, about 400,000 people emigrated from Croatia. They emigrate to Germany, Austria, and Ireland. And besides that, Croatia is aging, and the demographic structure is expected to be worse, with more elderly and fewer young people and children. And what is evident from all of this is that Croatia is losing a working age population, which has consequences on the economy and the whole society. Now let's talk how we fight these issues. So we're drafting a strategy for demographic revitalization of the Republic of Croatia. And the first aim of the strategy is to mitigate negative demographic trends and to build a supportive environment for youth and families. And the second thing, we want to make stronger ties with Croats abroad and support their return to Croatia. Of course, we formed a working group, and it consists of state administration bodies, scientific, professional institutes, and associations. Of course, the strategy will take the Council's conclusions on demographic challenges the way ahead into consideration. I mention here a few measures from my office, Central State Office for Demography and Youth. We improved the environment and financial conditions for families in terms of maternity and parental benefits and child allowance. Now we create a new Maternity and Parental Benefits Act, and of course we support municipalities for conductions and development of preschool activities. We built about 200 new kindergartens and co-finance work in the preschool educational program. And we have extended the working time of kindergartens and additional programs. One of the novel projects is an e-card for children called Mudrica, which is a mobile application, and the users get benefits or discounts on goods and services with our partners. And the users are parents, guardians, and of course foster parents. Here you can see some demographic measures on the national level. Incoming tax relief for young people up to 25 and 30 years age, active employment policy measures like a grant for self-employment, a grant for business expansions, education, training grants, and of course aid for job preservation due to COVID-19 pandemic. And I must say that we had 2 earthquakes, so we have post-earthquake measures. So this is a few of measures I decided to show you, but in Central State Office we collect data of demographic measures and activities implemented on the local level and shares that information with citizens. So this is our small local Atlas of Demography. And we don't forget young people. Now we are drafting national program for youth for the period 2022 to 2024. Of course, we have youth advisory boards and advisory board for youth of government of the Republic of Croatia. And that is a cross-sectoral advisory body of the government, and it develops horizontal communication of stakeholders. And the goal is to create a better national youth policy. And at the beginning of 2021, the Central State Office launched telephone counseling for young people, and it was done in cooperation with Croatian Psychological Chamber. We have 20 phone lines via phone or SMS and WhatsApp, and in the first few months we have about 200 young people ask for help. Most of them asked for consultation or emotional relief. Also, we launched a specialized youth portal called mladi.hr, and youth participate in creation of the content. So, on the end, as policymakers, we need to find out how to address the immigration process and to attract workers in the country. Well, in Croatia, we are focusing on making ties stronger with Croats outside, and priority policy area is building a supportive environment for youth and family in order to mitigate negative demographic trends. Now we are solving the problem by immigration of workers mostly from the neighboring countries, but that cannot be a permanent solution. So we can talk about successful green policy and digitalization only if there are people who will use it and produce the goods. Demography and family policy should be a foundation for shaping all other policy. So we have no time to waste anymore. And on the end, I would like to invite you for a discussion. So we have a few questions, dear Dubravka. How demographic atlas could contribute to the demographic revitalization of the European Union? And the other question, how did the COVID-19 pandemic influence the demographic situation in the European Union? So thank you a lot.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite the Vice Dean of Geology and Geography Department of Sofia University, Mr. Georgi Bardarov, to present the case in Bulgaria.
Hello, dear Vice President Schweitzer, dear guests from Croatia and Bulgaria. My name is George Bardarov. I am Associate Professor in the Sofia University St. Clement Ohridski and a Vice Dean of Geology and Geography Department. For me, it is great pleasure to present my presentation about demographic tendencies and processes in Bulgaria and Europe. The world is changing. In the 21st century, we have absolutely new demographic models in the world. These new demographic models are distinguished with global sustainable low birth rate, intensive aging of the population, and global movement of population. Only in the span of 100 years, the average life expectancy has risen from 35 years to over 80 years of age. For example, in Spain, in the beginning of the 20th century, the average life expectancy is 34.3 years. Today it is 83.4 years. The population of 65 years of age and above has increased globally from 5 million in the beginning of 20th century to 100 million people in the middle of 21st century. That of 85 years of age and above, from 1 million to 30 million people. Most of this aging population is accumulated in Europe. In Bulgaria, however, there is something different and strange. The demographic cliches in Bulgaria are low birth level and decrease in the absolute number of the population. The first is not true, and the second is not a real problem. It is not true that Bulgaria has a low birth level. In all Europe, the birth levels are low, and the evidence for this, the demographic data. The total fertility rate in Europe is between 1.1, the lowest rate in Italy and Malta, to 1.9, the highest rate in Ireland and France. The total fertility rate in the countries in southeastern Europe is between 1.5 and 1.6. We can see the birth rate in Europe is between 7.6 promils, the lowest in Italy, to 12.9 promils, the highest in Ireland. And sometimes in Bulgaria is 8.9 promils. The real demographic problems in Bulgaria are the immigration of the young population, in result the aging of the population and the depopulation. In result of this, the illogically high mortality rate. Unfortunately, 2021, Bulgaria has mortality rate 18.1 promils, the highest in Europe and one of the highest in the world. We have the districts like Vidin, Montana, Pleven, Veliko Tърново, Russe, and Silistra, where the population of over 65 years of age is above 30%. In the Vidin area, 1/3 of the population being 65 plus. There are two coefficients which show this demographic crisis very precisely. The first is the age dependence coefficient, which shows the ratio between the people in the independent ages, 15-65, to those of the dependent ages, 0-15 and 65 plus. In these districts, it reaches almost 70%, and in Vidin, it is above this percentage. This means that in 100 people in active age, there are 70 people in the dependent ages. The second coefficient is the coefficient of demographic replacement, which show how many in 100 retiring people in a respective year and a respective territory become active working population from the one that is under working age. With how many working age people are replaced the retired ones. For Bulgaria, this coefficient for 2001 was positive. Today it is 100-64, and the districts Vidin, Gabrovo, Smolен, it is even 100-40. This map shows the population of the age 65 plus years by districts in Bulgaria. The second problem in Bulgaria, demographic problem, is the high mortality rate. In the districts Vidin, Montana, Silistra, the mortality rate is over 20 promils. There are municipalities where the mortality rate is above 30, 40, and even 50 promils. Bojnica, 51.2, Makriš, 40.5, and Kua, 44.1 promils. Such mortality rate in the world is found only in Africa and Asia, in areas suffering from massive pandemics or being in a military conflict. Also, Bulgaria has a drastic vertical demographic disbalance. Bulgaria has become the first country in the world where the biggest group from the population are women aged 65-69. This is a big social bomb because it means acute deficit of young active population. Despite this, I am truly convinced that the demographic situation in Bulgaria can be turned into a positive direction. In this respect, we have the wonderful example of Eire, the Republic of Ireland. They have similar territory to Bulgaria, 70,000 square kilometers, and similar population, 4.8 million people. In the 19th century, they experienced a demographic boom and reached a population of 8.2 million people. In the middle of the 20th century, they fall into a total economic, social, and demographic collapse. In the 50s, 80% of those born in the 30s become emigrants. The population is reduced to 2.5 million people. The economics is practically non-functioning. The radical change in the 60s in the role of Sean Lemmens, Prime Minister of Eire. His policy is based on three policies. The first is a radical reform in education. Thanks to this, today Eire is leading in all demographic figures in Europe. I have a 7-step program for the demographic development of Bulgaria. The first step is education. I believe we need a radical reform in our education system in order to make Bulgaria an attractive place for the young people. We have the brilliant example of Finland, whose educational motto is, we have two roads to prepare children for the exams or for life itself. We choose the second. The second step is implementation, because the motivated person produces many times more. The third step is income, a remuneration up to date with the modern developed world. This is the most modern library in the world, which the Finnish government gave to its people for the 100th anniversary of their independence, a nation which can clearly see that in the 21st century, the most important investment is in human capital, education, and culture will make progress. The fourth step is healthcare, because the mortality rate is one of the two big demographic problems of Bulgaria. The fifth step is infrastructure. Regional policy towards the regions of the country that are lagging behind. The sixth step is social insurance and justice, belief in the institutions and the whole sense of community. And the seventh step, proactive immigration politics. Bulgaria is everywhere in the world where Bulgarian heart is beating. I believe that very soon Bulgaria will have a much better future, also demographic future, because demography, not democracy, will be the most critical factor for security and growth in the 21st century. Thank you very much for your attention.
Благодаря много на професор Бардаров. I would like to invite again Vice President of the European Commission, Mrs. Schweitzer, back on stage for discussing some of the questions from the audience. Before that, we will ask you something and you can send your answer again in Slido. The question is, what is more important for you when choosing a place to live? There is different options as employment opportunities, cost of living, connectivity, safety, rule of law, proximity to family and friends, climate, school and education system, healthcare, and others. Please vote.
Why? What did...
We will wait a little longer. I'm voting too. Because the question is really very, very important. And as you see, employment opportunities are on the first place. Yeah. Do the results surprise you, Mrs. Vice President?
No, the result does not surprise me. It is expected, if I may say so, because employment and business opportunities are very important, especially for young people who, I think, follow this dialogue. Yeah. Maybe it depends on the audience, but when I know that young people are following this, then I think that the most important issue in young people's lives is employment and business opportunity. And of course, they will choose a place to live in accordance with this. Of course, all these other issues are also important, as you see, but employment is
maybe is the most important from young people, as you mentioned already. I know you were a mayor of one of the most beautiful cities in Europe, Dubrovnik, so you are very well informed from first hand about regional policy. What would make life in the regions more attractive for young people? What do you think?
Okay, first of all, when I said during my introductory statement that this is the first ever portfolio on democracy and demography, the reason why I was assigned this portfolio was from President von der Leyen was that I am the only former mayor in the College of Commissioners. She thought that I had this direct contact with citizens and it's easier to contact them on both Conference on the Future of Europe and also on different issues. So coming from the region, but not only because of that, we adopted long-term vision for rural areas, strategy on the long-term vision for rural areas, because we adopted this in June this year. The reason for this was that we realized, as I said, that 80% of Europe is rural. So why don't we use this potential better? This is also valid, I think, here for Bulgaria. When I was listening to your expert, it was evident what is going on in these rural areas and that we have to help these rural areas. This Recovery and Resilience Facility Fund and your National Recovery and Resilience Program, which is going to be submitted, as I heard, on 15th of October, would be one of the most important tools to help these regions. Why? Because there were some conditions within this Recovery and Resilience Plan, and conditions were 20% of digitals and 37% of green. This has to be within this program. Why digitals? Because today you cannot imagine life, especially now after COVID or in the mid of COVID, I don't know where we are yet, but it was very important to be digitally connected. So the motto of today is not where do you live, but how well you are connected. Because if you are connected, you can think about creating new jobs in that region. So you can work remotely. You can think about also older people, about services, e-services, e-health. Everything can be done remotely. And I'm sure if we would be able to implement all these ideas and policies, that the life in rural areas can become attractive and prosperous again. This is what we are trying to do. And to help these rural, we don't have anything against urban. There is now divide urban rural, but you saw how there is one lessons learned drawn from this COVID-19 pandemic. So young families moved to rural areas, to the countryside. The air was better.
But they don't want to lose their opportunities for job.
Yeah. They don't want to. This is the reason why I'm talking about broadband internet on top of all this. Without having today connections, of course transport, of course different infrastructure, sewage system, water, but digitals are nowadays more than waters a few decades ago. So you have to be digitally connected in order to be possible to continue your work, in order to also to follow your classes in the school. There were some, I met children in the, you know that the earthquake struck Croatia last year, and they had to follow classes remotely. They told me in this area that they had to climb the mountain to have the signal to know what their teacher told them to do for homework. So digital connections are very, very important. And this is why we are insisting on 20%. And broadband, once we have broadband internet in all villages, which is our goal by 2025, Wi-Fi for all, then I'm sure that life in rural areas can be better.
Thank you very much. You already answered our first question in Slido about the policy in rural areas. So let's move to the second one. Bulgaria is facing the so-called brain drain. Are there EU programs that could help with that? And one more about life of old people. What would the EU do to improve their lives?
We can start from older people. If you have followed the speech of the Union of Ursula von der Leyen on 15th of September, she announced a new care package. A new care package will come out, and it is also within my portfolio. So that when we say care package, that means older people, that means long-term care, that means kindergartens, so both children and older people. So this is something which we will propose from European level. But again, without cooperation with national, regional and local authorities, nothing can be done. So you have to have cooperative leaders and policymakers also on these levels. Otherwise, you cannot do anything. Regarding brain drain, There are no programs because we chose Europe. You joined Europe, Bulgaria, some years ago. We in 2007. Croatia joined in 2013. And we opted for freedoms. And one of the key freedoms is freedom of movement. And young people, it is liberty, it's free. They can choose to live where they want, where they're... but you see that they want better employment, and that employment is something which drives their decisions. So there are no programs on it, but the trends, no direct programs, but there are programs in making...
it's a matter of internal policy.
Yes, but internal policy cannot do it alone without money from European Union. This is the reason why this National Recovery and Resilience Program is of utmost importance. Now, because this is good that your country will submit it by 15th of October, and in 2 or 3 months you will get first reimbursement, which is 13%. And little by little this will be implemented in different projects within the country. So cohesion policy, regional policy is very important, but as I said, there is no universal solution. There is no one size fits all. So each territory is different. Each region is different. It's not the same in Bulgarian mountain and on Croatian island. So you have to create different programs for different areas. And this is what we are trying to do from European level to help young families decide to have children and all this. But we are not ones who will talk about mortality rates, birth rates, natality. It's member states' competence. So it's not up to us, since it's personal choice of young people to decide on whether to have children or not. But when we talk about this, we are not isolated in the world. We have to tackle global dimension of demography, because when you think about continents like Africa, they will triple by in 2 or 3 decades, and Europe will be only 4%, as I said earlier, in 2070. It doesn't necessarily mean that there will be less of us Europeans, but in proportions there will be only 4%. At the same time, we Europeans want to be world leader in economy. So we have to put question, how can we be world leaders with only 4% of population? And then there are different solutions. One is artificial intelligence and digitals. Fine. Another is, which is very sensitive for member states, managing illegal migrations. And the third, which is the most important, is creating environment for better living, for well-being, for SMEs, for economy to flourish in these areas. And this is what we are trying to do. There is no, you cannot push the button. So if I may be completely open, President von der Leyen said to me a few months ago, it's not easy with demography. You won't see the results of your work during your political life. So it's long term, and these are different policies which should work together, and nobody can be framed within his or her own portfolio. We have to work together because we overlap. And as I said, it is the digital and the green transition, but there is demographic transition. What you said, Dean, expert, you said
Professor Bardarov,
you said that democracy, it's not democracy, but demography, which will be the main point in next decade. Yes, you are right, but you may ask the question why democracy and demography are within the same portfolio. First, because of the root of the world, demos, everything is about citizens. But the reason why this is put in one portfolio is exactly this, what is going on in Bulgaria. People who feel left behind in rural areas, they start not believing anymore in democratic procedures. They don't take part in elections. They say, who cares? We are left alone there. And then they start blaming democracy, but it's demographic change to be blamed, not democracy, because there is nothing better than democracy, and we have to cherish it. We are going to talk about this in the second part of our dialogue. So this is very complex issue. It's not, there is no, you cannot push the button to solve this problem.
Thank you very much. I want to mix one question from Slido and one question from Mrs. Josic, State Secretary for Demography in the Republic of Croatia. Her question to you was connected with COVID. How COVID affect demographic situation in Europe? And the next question from Slido is connected with this Atlas of Demography, because this is something new for us. How this Atlas of Demography could help local authorities?
As you saw from demonstration video, and as I said, Atlas of Demography is a completely innovative tool, which was done on the level of which was done by a joint research center in the European Commission. This tool, you can now go via your smartphone there, and you can see, as I said, what is the situation on the ground. You can see the situation in one village in Bulgaria by pushing the button and seeing at granular level what is going on with population, with birth rates, with the economy, with the trends. Everything is there. And this is an interoperable tool, which means that we will upgrade it, and the next edition will come in December, as I said. So it can help all local leaders to create their policies. So they can, of course, also contribute to this Atlas of Demography. So this shows the territorial imbalances, if I may say, within the European Union. It's territorial imbalances within, not within the European Union, not within member states, but also within the counties, within the regions in your country. There are big disparities, and we have to address them. And this is the basis for developing or drafting the policies at local level. Regarding, this is the answer to your question, Željka. And the next question was on lessons learned from COVID. Not lessons learned, but it's too early at this moment to draw conclusions from COVID-19 regarding the numbers. And you know, it's too early, and it's the only lesson which which I'm sure is that people tend to live outside of big metropolitan areas because pandemic and virus spread less. It was easier to live there. The air was fresher, but then again, we have broadband internet. If you don't have broadband internet, you cannot stay there forever. You can. So this is something which we aim to provide to all Europeans by 2025. So this is the answer. Although there will be lessons, I'm sure, like intergenerational solidarity, because you saw how young people help their grandparents to use these digitals. They helped each other, not only within one family, but also neighbors helped each other. So solidarity may be one of the lessons which are learned from this COVID-19. And you know that Europe is based on solidarity, first of all, but little by little we distanced ourselves. But I think nowadays solidarity is back again.
Thank you very much. Now it's time to switch to another important part of your portfolio, democracy. We will ask again the audience in Slido. Please vote on Slido. Do you want to have a greater say in decision-making in the European Union? Definitely yes.
So may I start immediately? Yeah. The reason I said, but I want to, the reason why we started this very complex and courageous exercise is that citizens want to have greater say. After last elections, in 2019 European elections, I know that in Bulgaria there was not that high turnout, and in Croatia, but on average it was more than 50% in Europe. turnout for European elections. And we said people want to have greater say. But if we ask them only once in 5 years and nothing during this period between elections, then they feel really left behind. They want to be part of drafting European policies. And we want to make people not only feel, but to make them be part of drafting European policies by organizing this conference. But since it's a very complex exercise, this is the reason why I'm all the time trying to invite you to come to multilingual digital platform, because this digital platform is hub of the conference. Everything is going on there. Whatever is discussed or is being debated or being deliberated on the platform will feed into European citizens panels, and then from European citizens panels to conference plenary. These are these 3 Ps. And this conference plenary, I'm part of executive board, we will draw conclusions and they will be transmitted to our 3 presidents. And our 3 presidents, von der Leyen, President of the Parliament, and Presidency of the Council, they promised by signing joint declaration in March this year that they will act accordingly, which means whatever the conclusions might be, we will either draft new legislation, even change of treaty is possible. Although I don't advocate this, but I want to mention this. So we don't preempt any conclusions, so whatever you want to deliberate, but you have to go to this digital platform and you have to organize similar events like this. It's not the government who will organize. Fine, 2 ministers, we thank them. But civil society, non-governmental associations, whoever, symbolically, may I tell you, even living room debate can be seen as debate under the brand of Conference of the Future of Europe. If you go to the platform, if you subscribe your event, and if you come there with your conclusions. So these conclusions will be taken into consideration while analyzing the results. This is complex, but the only way how we can, this European construction is complex, as you know, whole European project is complex. So this is first time that 3 institutions come together and want to deliberate on the future of European Union. And 1/3 of young people is envisaged to be there. When you say young people, that means from 16 to 25. So each citizens panel should be comprised of 1/3 of young people, because we say we don't want to talk about them without them, because we talk about their future. They are going to live in this future. And this is not by coincidence that this Recovery and Resilience facility or program is called Next Generation EU, because we are at the moment preparing Europe together with them for a next generation. And this is something which is maybe not well communicated. And the reason why I'm touring Europe all the time, trying to explain, but it's not only me. I need media, I need broader communication, since I'm in charge on behalf of Commission, but there are also many others who are in charge on this. So any event, and this is the reason why I said this is very brave and courageous, because no democracy in the world has ever tried something similar. This is innovative, completely innovative. Of course, I have to say that there were some parliamentarians, both national and European, who were against this. They told, why do we need Conference of the Future of Europe and those citizens? Because we are elected directly by citizens. Why do we need citizens? Our answer to them is, this is not to abolish representative democracy, this is to empower you, this is to strengthen you. This is, they say, oh yes, but I have contact with my constituency, I don't need them. But, you know, what we did, we selected 800, we randomly selected 800 European citizens from all parts of Europe, also from Bulgaria. It's not us, Commission, but independent company, which was hired. And 800 citizens are deliberating in 4 panels about different European issues. And whatever they will conclude will feed into conference plenary, where citizens will first time deliberate on an equal footing together with members of government, members of European Commission, members of European Parliament, national parliamentarians. So all of them will be on equal footing there. And conclusions from this plenary will be conclusions of the conference, and this will be, I hope, and not I hope, I'm sure, because they promised this in joint declaration. They will offer new legislation, new recommendations, new laws, whatever will come out from this. So this is only to explain how it works. And there is no better democratic exercise than this one, but it should work.
And the good news is that young people are usually very active, as we can see in Slido. I will start with, there will be another 3 questions at the end of the dialogue. One question from Zagreb, if I see well. When will high-speed internet and hyperconnectivity come to every part of the EU, especially in rural and remote areas? One more question. What policy provide the European Union and European Commission to ensure equal access to education for every student?
Regarding hyperconnectivity, as I said, 2025 is the year where we think that, we promise that high broadband internet will be in each and every village. This is the reason why each national recovery and resilience program should comprise 20% for investment in digitals. And this is something what we are aiming at. Regarding equal access to education, I mentioned, but I haven't talked a lot about child guarantee and European child guarantee and about strategy for the rights of the child. We adopted this. We are working on it. I'm working on child guarantee together with Commissioner Nicolas Schmit. We are especially addressing vulnerable children. And what we want to achieve is that each child in Europe and also in the world, we want to be leaders in the world in these child rights, have equal access to education, to housing, to healthcare, to nutrition, because I may, you wouldn't believe, even in Belgium, even in Brussels, there were some children during this COVID-19 pandemic who live in poverty. So we know that 20% of European children live at risk of poverty. And this is an unbelievable fact, but it's true. And the only meal for them was the meal in school. Since there was no school, they were deprived of this meal, even in the heart of European Union. So this is the reason why we are trying to implement this child guarantee together with national governments. In 2 years' time, I hope it will be implemented, and they will be. And you know, there is also European Social Fund Plus, where they have to put 5%, all national governments, 5% of all money into children's rights and children. So education, of course, it's again member states' competence, but of course we are trying to implement different policies in order also to address education, because as you said, education is zero, is basis. Without good education, nothing will be changed, but this is also a vicious circle, because first you have to educate, to have good teachers, and then where do you this should be a radical reform. Otherwise, you don't know where to start from. But it's new politics, and you have your Commissioner, Maria Gabriele, who is in charge of education, innovation, science, and sports, and digitals, and she's, I'm sure she has many more details than me today.
Thank you. There was one question I think it's interesting about Eurostat and data for cost of living. Can we see again this question, please? Why EU, Eurostat, does not collect data on cost of living? I know that they collect data from salaries, from unemployment, but...
I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure that they don't collect cost of living. I'm sure they do, because they do. There is no field where they don't collect data. I don't know.
We often hear that the young people are the future, but we are also having young people in the present. Which are the European Commissioner priorities for them?
Young people, as I said, 1/3 of each panel and even of conference plenary are young people, 16, not 18, not 21, from 16 to 25. This shows that we think about young people at the moment. I said about children's strategy, about children's rights. We also want to teach young, as early as from creche, from kindergarten, to teach children be active participants in society. When I was mayor of the city of Dubrovnik, and it was 15 years ago, we started engaging children in city councils, and we also elected city mayor. So we wanted to teach children how to behave in democratic processes, because you have to learn this from your childhood if you want to be part of the society, active part of society. So we are trying to do everything, but it's all, of course, always connected with all your national governments and your national ministries and your national policies. But I don't doubt that this is the case in Bulgaria.
One more question connected with national policies, but people are curious about your opinion. Can tax reduction for young people affect positively the changes for staying in their home country?
For sure. Tax policy is one of the most important policies. It's still national competence, but we are debating and deliberating, and I'm sure that this topic will come out from this Conference on the Future of Europe, trying to find a common tax policy, but it's not easy because different GDP in different member states, so you cannot align. But I'm sure that tax policy for young families and for young people is one of the most important ones to keep, because you saw the first question was at the beginning, the first question was what drives you to stay there, and there it was employment. Yeah. So that means that tax policy is very important. But once again, it's a national policy. For you, I think, for Bulgaria, it is the most important how your government and your regional and local authorities use European funding, which is available, and how, and especially now there is a short-term recovery and resilience fund, which is created because of the COVID-19 pandemic. This should be used by 2026. So the most important is what is written within your national program, which is going to be submitted in a few days, and Commission will, I hope, adopt it, and then the Council should adopt it, and then you can start dispersing this money all over the country. And this is, I don't know what is in it because we haven't received it yet, but I hope it is in accordance with our lines.
Before your final remarks, the last question: how can we improve the education in a way young people can better integrate in the common European market?
Listen, I think that Bulgarian national education system is good enough, because I said that teachers,
We hope so.
Yeah, but you know why? Because doctors, teachers, nurses, and engineers, all those who moved out to Western part, European Union, are very well known, very well respected. So if their education is good for Brussels, Paris, and Berlin, it is also good here in Bulgaria. Of course, learning languages is very important. Without languages, since we speak Slavic languages in this part of the world, it's very important, because otherwise you can't integrate. So I think, I don't doubt in education system because of this fact. So otherwise they wouldn't be respected there. So, and they can gain some knowledge, as I said, brain gain, brain circulation, come back if we create environment and all infrastructure for them to live in, to have same living conditions and standards here as they have in Berlin. What is the reason for staying there? Or Ireland, for example, you gave us the best example how national politics can do a lot in order to reverse the trends. But when I say reverse trends, I don't want that young people think that we don't want them to move freely across Europe. So freedom of movement is here, but life in Bulgaria is also nice. You saw what these examples from Zagreb, and when they say that the life is slower than in United States, life is better. But of course, employment is important, and salary, of course.
Before your final remarks, I want to thank you to all the audience about their question and to tell them, as you mentioned already, to take part in the conference of the future of Europe and to give their opinion there. You can see the address, #TheFutureIsYours. So now it's time for conclusions.
First of all, thank you very much for invitation. I was trying to reply to your questions, but it's not easy to reply from the level where I am, although I'm trying, you know, but I know European competencies, you know national competencies, so I have to stay within the competencies always. But after the conference on the future of Europe, we will see what the competencies will be. It will depend on your deliberations, on your active participation in this conference. So for me, it is very important that not only young people, but of course young, but also older people, because when we talk about young, it doesn't mean that we don't care about older people, because they are also a valuable part of our societies. So when we talk about aging, it's not that negative, because we need older people because of their knowledge, because of their expertise, because of their wisdom. So this intergenerational solidarity is very important if we want to make our societies excellent in the end. And I invite all of you to come to our digital platform to organize events, not only comment, not only share ideas, but also organize events, because once you organize event, you are allowed to subscribe your conclusions, which can be seen in the final conclusions.
As for example, this event.
Of course, I hope that there will be some conclusions from this event and that you will subscribe them on the platform. So this is how it works. Otherwise, although this digital platform was envisaged before pandemic, so and now during pandemic it became a hub of the conference. But in fact, it was envisaged also before. So this is the way how to reach each and every European on, as I said, India mountains and on the islands. And also, I want to add this at the end, those who don't believe in European project, also those who are skeptical about Europe. We want to hear what is their problem, why are they convinced in their ideas. So we want to somehow fill in the space of these populistic ideas and to see how we can reply to the problems, to the concerns, to the fears of people who have different ideas. So we are completely open, completely transparent, and completely inclusive. This is how this Conference on the Future of Europe works. But without your active participation, this wouldn't be possible in the end. At this moment, we have 3.5 million people who contacted this multilingual digital platform. But if you compare this 3.5 million with 450 million Europeans, then this is a huge number, but it is not enough.
Not so much,
so
yeah.
Please come to the platform. This will be my final invitation. And thank you for being with us today. Thank you for asking important questions, and looking forward to Bulgaria, which is very important geostrategically part of European Union. Looking forward to being member of Schengen zone and Eurozone, same as Croatia. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Mrs. Vice President Schweitzer, thank you very much. Thanks to all of you, and don't forget that the future is in your hands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are right. You are right.